Good evening, everybody. This is the Auburn Finance Committee. Today is December 10th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. Call the meeting to order. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Finance Committee is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, dial 1-786-535-3211 and use access code 991-599-357, or the public can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/991-599-357. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. And let me just go through, I don't know if we have anybody remote, I don't believe so. If I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Michael Marshall.
Present.
Patrick Jones.
Here.
George Graham.
Here.
Stephen Consilvio.
Here.
And Andrew Shar.
Here.
Town officials and employees participating. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Manager Dory Vecchio.
Here.
CFO Town Accountant Karen Harnois.
Here.
And Administrative Assistant Danielle Chamberlain Roberts.
Here.
Note that each vote taken, we're not going to do roll call because we don't have anybody remote. Okay, first item on our agenda is our fiscal 27 budget kickoff meeting. Well, thank you to all the department heads who took time out of their evening to do this.
Through the chair, thank you so much. I would also like to thank all the department heads that are here tonight. I do believe everyone has the kickoff packet that I sent off, and I did send this to each of the departments last week so that they could have a head start on preparing their budgets for fiscal year 27. I'm not going to go through the whole packet. It's very similar to prior years. We have made some changes in regards to the aesthetics. Some things we now have drop-down menus for, make it a little bit easier when the work is being done from the departmental level. And we also, the biggest thing that we added that was a recommendation of this board, but also something that I'm very familiar with, is a cover sheet from the department. And I remember last year when we went through the budget process, it was recommended from the Finance Committee that the department prepare a cover page explaining what the difference is in their budget, why there's a difference, what the request is going to be, if anything's removed or added. And I think that will, from each department, I think that will help go through the budget process a little bit easier, whether it's this board or the select board. So one of the pages you'll see is an example of a departmental budget page. Now this is going to vary by department. Some, depending on the type of information, like something you see from the senior center may be different from what you see from the treasurer's office. But they're all going to be working from the same type of outline, and I'm sure it's the first time they're doing it, so I'm sure they'll have questions for me. But the goal of this is to provide information that explains the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget. Is it due to contractual obligations? Or is it due to a request for a new staff person? Or is it due to a request for a new program? And why? So that the board has that information right from the start, and that way when we come before you, you'll be able to ask your questions. So that's the biggest change in this booklet. Everything else is, besides reformatting to make it aesthetically pleasing, is pretty much similar to what it's been in prior years. I will be amending it again probably next year to make it a little bit more user-friendly. I just didn't have the time this year to do a complete change. So from that point, I would like to introduce Karen, who is going to be doing the budget presentation, or the budget kickoff presentation.
Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Auburn's FY 2027 budget kickoff. So this is a summary of the FY 2027 proposed budget. It is a first look at our revenues and expenses projections for fiscal year '27. We're going to be having some additional explanations in some of the further slides. But at this point, there's a projection of appropriations of almost $89 million. For some of the revenue sources, we have local receipts at $13.9 million. Cherry sheet receipts are being level funded at $18.6 million. Tax levy is projected at $51.9 million. We have debt exclusions for the middle school totaling $1.4 million. Available funds to offset the budget, $2.1 million. So the total revenue sources at this time are $88.046 million, and there is an estimated deficit of $947,433. Now, this is utilizing the full 2.5% increase. So we'll look at the revenues versus the expenses. In the revenues, the local receipts, even though I mentioned that they were level funded, there's a couple of items within local receipts that we'll talk about that are increasing. Cherry sheet receipts, you can see, are level funded. The tax levy includes the new growth and the 2.5%. Debt exclusions are decreasing slightly as the debt is being paid off. Available funds, we'll talk about that a little bit, at this point in time are reducing by a little over $900,000. So the total revenue at the $88.046 million, appropriations $88.9 million, with the estimated deficit at $947,000. Now, within this budget, as I mentioned, we're using 100% of Prop 2.5. It utilizes $700,000 of new growth to fund the budget, and the estimated levy utilization is at 84.87%, with the unused levy at 15.13, which is similar to prior years. And as I previously mentioned, we're raising $1.4 million outside of the levy limit for the middle school debt and interest. This chart shows new growth. The 5-year average is $740,278. In fiscal year '26, the actual new growth was $733,380. And for fiscal year '27, we're estimating conservatively at $700,000. So here's a breakdown of the fiscal year '27 projected tax levy. We start out at a base of just over $59 million. Our 2.5% increase is $1.475. Adding in the new growth projection of $700,000, it actually brings us to a levy limit of $61.2 million, but within this budget, the levy is projected at $51.9 million, which is the 84.87% of the tax levy limit. So for FY '27 revenue, the cherry sheet, as I mentioned, the state aid is level funded to fiscal '26, because at this point, we're not hearing whether there are going to be any increases, so we thought, to be conservative, we're going to level fund at fiscal '26 level. The local receipts are level funded, with the exception of some enterprise fund budgets and indirect costs, which we'll look at on some future slides. The available funds were adjusted based upon funds that are available to be used in fiscal '27. And again, the tax levy reflects a 2.5% increase over the prior year. The next is a chart just showing our cherry sheet history, which is actually a 10-year average of $816,774 increase. But you can see in the chart over the last several years, we've only had a 1.89% increase in fiscal '25, and '26 was 2.5%. And because we just don't know, and we haven't gotten any new additional information as of this point, Again, we're going to level fund the cherry sheet state aid. Now, for fiscal '27, available funds, basically, we're using the same funds to be consistent from year to year. We have lots and graves in there, our pension reserve. We're using 1.75 million in ambulance revenue. Now, you'll notice that there are some accounts in here or lines that aren't filled in. Some of those are used towards the capital budget, and right now, we're just focusing on the operational side of the budget. The FY '27 local receipts, all the line items in here are level funded, except there are the offsets for the enterprise funds. So you can see the golf course is in there for $800,000, sewer, $2.7 million, and cable for $200,000. Other than those items, everything else is level funded to FY '26. So in the FY '27 expenditure budgets, at this point, the departmental wages were increased by 2% for non-union employees. The union employees were increased by the percentage that are within the union contracts. The school department budget is increased by 4%, $1.312 million. Debt service is decreased in this budget by $821,836 due to maturing debt, so that actually is helping us. That's a positive thing. And other expenses at this point were level funded with a few exceptions. So these are the notable other expense increases. The health insurance is coming in double digits, so we have a 14% projected increase of $1.274 million. General insurance, a 5% estimated increase, $55,000. Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment is estimated at 11%, which is $633,629. There is a meeting scheduled for the middle of January where we should get a more updated number on our assessment. Bay Path assessment is increasing at 4%, $72,255. Again, I contacted Bay Path, but at this point, we don't have an actual assessment increase, so we're estimating it at 4%. And then the solid waste contract is up this year, so we're estimating a 5% increase in solid waste and recycling costs for $69,660. So this is the projected budget summary by department. Again, as I said, I kind of went through the budget. I increased the salaries by the percentages in the contracts, and generally the expenses are level funded except for the ones that we spoke about. So it continues on this page, and that shows the total annual appropriations at $88.994 million. So just as a projected, the FY '27 projected recap for the budget, total appropriations $88.994, total revenue $88.046, with the estimated deficit at $947,434.
Thank you. Through the chair, there has been topic of conversation in the past regarding our financial policies, which we are currently reviewing. One of the areas of interest were the percentage of free cash and stabilization that we have. And the topic is based on, do we have too much based on our financial policies? So we did an analysis, a basic analysis for this meeting to be able to at least present that to you. Do you want to go through those? Or do you want- Okay. So in regards to, let me see.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, why don't you, the first one?
So I went through the financial policies and pulled some of those out, and we can get you this spreadsheet afterwards, but we just kind of wanted to give you a little overview. So to utilize free cash, certified free cash and the stabilization must be a combined balance of 20% of the current year, of the current fiscal year operating revenue. And then after you reach that benchmark, the town can appropriate up to 50% of the annual gain in free cash. But in the policies, it says that free cash can only be appropriated for a few different items: OPEB, stabilization, the capital improvement trust, capital purchases, a conservation trust if statutorily adopted, facility improvements, or any other one-time non-operational expenses.
Can I ask? So, I think I'm probably the person who's asked this question the most. Can I get a copy of these financial policies? Because the policies that are on the website for the town, under like the finance department, are, I believe they're like the 2011 or 2012 financial policies. And that definitely does not jive with what I saw posted on the website. So if there are like updated policies, I'd love to look at them. Sounds like Dory's got them in hand. Yeah, that's fine.
It actually is true. The one that I was working from was adopted by Finance and the Board of Selectmen in November of 2012, but it was amended in June of 2015.
Can we get these posted to the town's website? I
Absolutely.
just think it's important that if we have a set of policies on the website, they're the right ones.
Absolutely.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I know that you don't have copies of this right now, but I just kind of wanted to go over just
Yeah.
where we are.
Absolutely.
Okay. So our free cash was almost 12.5 million. And the stabilization was at 5.196 at the end of June. So the total was 17.696. 20% of the fiscal '26 operating revenue is 15.2 million. So we're actually at 23.3%, which is over the 20%. It's about 2.4 million over that benchmark. The stabilization is not to be less than 5% of general fund operating revenues, which would be 3.8 million, the stabilization 5.2. So we're about 6.79%. The undesignated fund balance, it should be maintained at a sufficient level to absorb unpredictable revenue shortfalls, ensure cash flow levels, and maintain minimum level necessary to maintain the town's creditworthiness. So it should be between 5% and 8% of general fund revenues. Now, that's where we're on the high side, is that the undesignated fund balance is actually 17.93. But that actually goes into the other policy with the free cash and the stabilization needing to be at 20. So it really depends where you have that money, whether it's in free cash or stabilization.
If I could, through the chair, I just want to recognize that one of the real important things about recognizing both sides of this is we're about to do the fire station, and we took 8 million, or those balances would have been higher. But my point is that even though we're 3% over on one and we're a little high, to help offset some of these major capital improvement costs, it doesn't hurt to keep some of those values aside, because we, instead of borrowing for 30 years, we're able to borrow for 20, and that interest is greater than the amount that we spent. So we are concerned about the flow of it, but it seems to me that if we hadn't used it, we probably would have wanted to. But it sounds like the policies are more intact than we might have assumed they were, or thought they were.
So I was just going to, I obviously did a deep dive on this because I'm that kind of person. So I went to the state agency whose name escapes me at this moment, but the guidance that they put out, I think in 2022, was significantly lower than I think what our financial policies say. They indicated like 5 to 8% total in free cash, and they don't really particularly get into the stabilization part. But if our number is up around 17, I think it's worth having a discussion of whether our policy needs to be updated. I know that we're obviously concerned about bond rating. We do a decent amount of borrowing for capital projects and everything else, but I think that, given that we did just take $8 million and we're still over where we should be, I think we've been too conservative in the past as far as saving this money for a rainy day. I think the next year or two are probably going to be particularly rainy years. And I guess from my perspective, we're already taxing at 2.5. People are going to be upset by that to begin with, because that's been the last 2 years and people are upset about it. And whether I agree with that decision or not, it's not up to me, it's up to the select board. And I frankly think it's probably the right call. But I just think having money set aside and not using it, like, I understand that this is the very first draft of the budget, but when we come in about $800,000 or $900,000 under where we were for free cash last year, and we also have a $900,000 deficit, for me, at least, the message is that we care more about setting money aside than we care about funding services in town. And I don't think that that's true, to be very clear, but I think the optics of it aren't great. So I'll just say that.
If I can, through the chair, that is the reason why we wanted to present this
Absolutely.
information tonight, right in the beginning, because there were questions about the policies, and they do need to be updated. But although we're coming in with something, and it's preliminary, and we won't know about state aid till the end of January at MMA conference, and there's still a lot, obviously the budget's just the kickoffs tonight, so I don't even know what the departments are going to bring in, but we need to know where we are on these percentages, because it does make a difference. And if there is an area where I could recommend funding some more capital from free cash, because our numbers are like this, that may be something that I recommend to finance or to the Board of Selectmen to reduce some of that and reduce I don't know if we'll ever be able to reduce the 2.5%. We'll have to look. But it just gives us a little bit more flexibility. And I wanted to be transparent on what our numbers are. She's going to send this to all of you. We can post it online. It's basic numbers that follow our financial policies as they're written right now.
I'll also just say, like, if we're examining our financial policies anyway, I think having a discussion about what we can use free cash for, if it is limited by our policies, is something that we should do before it's too late. Because, I understand that we want to save money for capital projects and everything else, but if we can't fund operations in the next several years because the economy is not doing well, then that's obviously a bigger issue, so.
Understood. And just to remind the board, we do have a DLS audit that will be coming up. We have done outreach to them we're next in line, so that's great news, and they will be looking at our financial policies as well. So I look forward to the interaction with them. It's probably going to be through the whole budget process that we're working with them, but I think another whole set of eyes is, with that area of expertise, is just going to benefit us, so.
DLS is the organization
Yes.
whose name escaped me 30 seconds ago, so.
I just had two other policies that I just wanted to mention. I know one of the Finance Committee members had asked about debt, and there are in the debt guidelines. The debt is not supposed to be more than 10% of the annual operating budget. For fiscal year '27, it's projected to be 3.28%. So I just wanted to update those percentages and amounts. And the last one is the operating reserve. In our policies, it says it should be 0.005% of the net operating budget, which would come to $396,000, and ours is budgeted at $400,000. So it's pretty much right on target there.
Is that a minimum, a maximum, or just like a recommendation generally?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure if it's a minimum or not. Let me just check that, because I think it's right in the beginning. Whoops. The annual and the appropriation and the account shall be 0.005% of the town's general fund operating budget, but it's net of debt service, sewer enterprise, abatements, cherry sheet charges and offsets, and capital.
As an attorney, I hate the word shall.
Absolutely.
Chair, I just wanted to my peer's point here, I also want to mention, because the staff is here and the managers, which we're very grateful are here, I just want to acknowledge the narratives that we're asking for. It wouldn't hurt for you if you're in a narrative and you're going to talk about adding a person or doing something, that you explain the need and you go beyond year one or year two with that plan. Because your narratives combined with I guess we would call them redesigned fiscal policies, could enable us to find ways now with that knowledge to support a longer-term plan. We can no longer just sit here at our budget meetings for fiscal year '27. We do it for a CIP is where I'm heading. We think about what is 28, 29, 30. We know it's a moving target. We know your capital plans, things change. Your operating budgets are going to start to have to be that way. You can't just think about what you're going to do for 2027, the impact it's going to have for 2028, 2029. And an example would be the $1.9 million for the fire station, and we know the big change that that's going to make in some of the things going on in that department. So when we talk about the changes in the fire department right now, we're not just talking about what's happening in fiscal year '26. We're talking about '27, '28, '29 from an operational perspective, because some of these major decisions, for me, it's never the dollar amount. You could add a new person in your department and it can be $25,000 or $40,000. It could be 60. But the other thing that you want to think about is, what is the impact that that person who you are now bringing in, or that change that you're making to your budget, is going to have 2 or 3 years down the road? Because if we have that insight as a board, we can help the people, the managers and the CFO and the other people in the town make the decisions to make that work. So I just wanted to add that, so we're not just looking at fiscal policies, but we're looking at a plan to approach our regular annual budget. I know it's, we gave you all of this and now you're asking for more. There's never too much information, and this is a great start, but we do, like Michael also mentioned, we're at another year at 2.5. We might have to be there for a little bit, so we want to try to relieve some of that. However, at the same time, we're running some things, we don't want to run at the capacity with our budget that a city like Marlborough, or someone who's, 3 times our budget size, because a small community like Auburn just can't support that. But I know, watching a selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago, Selectman Carpenter did say, when we were discussing, when there was something else on the table, that Auburn isn't like any other community just around it. We're creative, we're thoughtful, we're supportive, and we want this to be the best that it can be. So I just wanted to add that to not just the fiscal policies and not just the budget we're working on, but to get everybody to understand that the more knowledge we have, the better we can all help one another. Thank you. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on the policies before we kind of? I guess my question would only be, I imagine we've veered slightly over whatever period of time, probably a decade or more, right? That we've gotten to that point that we've gotten off the policies, probably little by little. This probably was not I'm just wondering how the financial analysts would see a quick course correction, or should this be done in a gradual manner to get us back in line, as opposed to 1 or 2 fiscal years?
That's a great question. In fact, Karen and I have spoken, and we will be working with them, knowing that the DLS audit's coming up, knowing that there will be some changes, that there'll be meetings with the Finance Committee, with the Board of Selectmen, and trying to find the best way to actually implement changes in the policy that doesn't affect our bond rating, that doesn't affect our future growth, because you're absolutely right. I do anticipate the budget doesn't just grow.
Sooner put these papers
Right.
down and we bless it in April, and you're already into the next year.
Exactly. We're already preparing
If you're
for
not there
the
already.
special town meeting. So I do understand that, and you're absolutely right. So we are very concerned about that, to make sure that any changes we make do not have a negative effect on our bond weight rating or anything else for that matter. So there's quite a bit of work to do, but we're looking forward to updating these, because it's obvious that they need it, working with DLS and our consultants.
And just to confirm, in our budget packet, since we're discussing it, this is an actual hard copy of, this is the actual timeline. This isn't just a a guesstimate for the.
You're correct. This is, so.
is the timeline.
Right, so if you look at the budget kickoff document, that is the actual timeline for the 2027 budget. Everyone has a copy. Right now, we're at the fourth bullet, Finance Committee meeting with all department and division heads, circulation of budget packet and guidelines. I meet with my department heads monthly, sometimes more often, and this is a topic of conversation we have at every meeting. So it's not new to them. It may be a new presentation, and maybe new information is being asked for, but in general, it's not really that different.
Questions relative to the budget, the kickoff, the numbers you see before you, or? I guess I'll ask a question for people sitting at home, and, you know, the last line on your presentation is $947,000 deficit. And people are saying, probably, oh my, what does that mean for anything, so any services that may be provided within the town? Can you explain what that number is and how we close that, or what does that look like in the, as Patrick said, this is draft, you know, the very early,
Sure,
this is the
and I'll
beginning.
add to that question that what if the revenue sources, either the cherry sheet money or do decline, that number's only going to get bigger, it's not going to get smaller, because you've level funded something that you're not sure you're going to make. So I
Right.
just want to add to his question that.
So that's correct. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. The 900,000 isn't going to stay 900,000. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. If I did, that would be amazing. But based on several factors, which is local receipts, state, local aid, there's a lot of things that are still outstanding that we just don't know about. So this is preliminary. In fact, I have a meeting next week with our consultant for our health insurance, and they're looking at double-digit increases throughout all their municipalities. And one local company, actually a legal firm, I was just speaking to, and their healthcare costs increased for the whole firm 35%. So we have some huge issues in healthcare. In particular, pharmaceuticals is one of the biggest areas. So I'm going to look to meet with the IAC and work with our consultant and go out to bid, try to find ways to save money, whether it's through I don't think I'm going to change the cost sharing, the 75-25, because I also don't want to, you know, decrease morale and compete with communities that pay 25 or have the 25-75 split. I probably won't do that, but plan design changes are always an option, and that's something that is important to continue to look at, not just this year because it's tough, but every year, because incremental changes are a lot better than one big change after 10 years. That really hurts. So those things I'll be doing annually, and we are going out to bid for probably the first time in several years for health insurance next year. And basically, because we're self-insured and we have a healthy trust, all of our claims information goes from our consultant right to these providers, and they're able to bid on actual claims data. So that's beneficial to us. We're not stuck in a pool.
So are we within 6 months, or are we within 3 months of medical data?
We have, so there's always like, I think we're December, we're probably just getting through October right now. We're like 3 months behind. We could use the whole prior year data and then use the increase in the pharmaceuticals that we're seeing that are skyrocketing. So we will strategize about that next week on the best way to do it, but everyone is going through the same thing. What I can say is we're very lucky that we do have good financial policies. We do have a healthy trust for our health insurance. So I think it's going to be fine, but those are the things that are going to make a difference on this 900,000. So there's just so much still out there. I can't provide a relief to our residents that are listening to this, because I think this is probably the first time they've seen a number like this at one of these meetings in 15 years. And I recognize that, but I am going to be transparent, and I'm going to try to whittle that down, but I'm going to do it in a way that makes sense for the town and that's strategic and that does affect many years to come.
How much of the 900,000 is the 11% for health insurance? Is that in there?
It is, I saw it earlier.
The health insurance increase was a 14%, which is $1.274 million. So that is definitely a big chunk of that.
All of it.
All of it plus?
And it's also effective January, or July 1st, it goes fiscal year 1 to...
That is correct.
Plus, the Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment is a big piece of it as well.
And also the general insurance, and that's another area that continues to increase on us every single year. So I'll be going out to bid for that again. Well, I've done it in my prior positions, but I'm going out to bid for Auburn because it's important to get other companies to bid on our insurance. It keeps people on their toes, and I hate to say it, but it's important. Competition makes a difference. So I'll be going out to bid for that as well because I do see steady increases every year on that. Not to say we don't have claims data, we do use our insurance companies a lot for various things. Thank God we have insurance, but I just want you to know I am going out to bid for that as well, try to keep that cost down.
I guess I'll just add one more question. Obviously, we have concerns over what the state is going to fund us. Are there any federal funds within any of these budgets that we could have possibly future concerns that the federal government may not meet obligations or promises?
Yes, in particular, our school department is at, I'm not going to say at risk. I don't think there's an indication that it's going to be removed, but yes, part of our school department budget is funded federally, and we just don't know yet what's going to happen with that. So obviously, Beth is on top of that and keeps a close eye on it and keeps her ear to the group of people that she works with that, discuss this type of information. So it is definitely a risk.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anything else?
It's a tall order. It's a very tall order, but you're up for it.
You bet.
Anything else you'd like to add to close, or?
No, I just again want to thank the department heads. I'm glad they're all here. They know what we're up against, but I am super confident in their ability to work with me and to work through the priorities of the whole budget, not just their department. They are very good at understanding the bigger picture, which I'm so grateful because it just helps me as a manager to know that they understand that, and I look forward to working with them. All I can say is the deadline for the budget's the deadline. Not that I'm looking at anyone in particular, because we have a lot of work to do, and I think it's pretty clear here, but I have such a great team, and I'm actually, this is the favorite part of my job, believe it or not. It's fun. Let's see how fun it is.
Yeah, no, thank you for the adjustments in the process and the forms, and, yeah, I certainly will encourage any department heads to come in, and departments do come in and present their own budgets and advocate for themselves, be creative. I'm not saying you have to get up there and flashy PowerPoints, but, we don't know what we don't know. You certainly go behind closed doors with the town administration to advocate for your departments, but we certainly would like to hear and get to know folks in the town through this, medium, gets to sort of hear from you and hear what, where the money's being spent and for what services that they get out of it. So beyond the cover sheets, which would be great to look at and prepare in advance, we'd love to, see you in front of us and
Of course.
make some presentations, so. Okay, that's it for the budget kickoff, except for anybody that may have a transfer and wants to stay and advocate for a transfer. I think you've all had long days, and certainly let the boss dismiss you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think we have two transfers. Our next agenda item. They are both from DPW. The first one is going from the facilities supervisor. Amount requested $2,500, going to the miscellaneous supplies account, Reason given for the transfer is software to track work orders. Ms. Paquin, how are you?
Good evening. So yes, we're requesting this transfer for a new software that we're looking to implement. It's Seek Click Fix, and it will allow us to track work orders, track calls coming in. So we're looking to have kind of a soft start for the first few months, just internally with the staff, but hopefully rolling it out to the public, in the coming months so that we can have better transparency, more communication, a little bit easier for everybody.
Questions? It used to be your world, the software world.
I guess my two questions are, is this like a SaaS product, or is it like a software that we're hosting ourselves?
So it's my understanding that it's actually part of the software that we're already using, that the town is already using, so it's just an add-on to, and I apologize, OpenGov and Civic Plus kind of are interchangeable for me, so I'm not really sure which one is which.
And is this a one-time cost, or is this like an annual licensing fee?
It would be an annual licensing fee.
And just out of curiosity, is the 2,500 a year, or is that like the rest of this fiscal year? Like,
So this is the annual cost, and the projected cost for next year is $2,500. We started out with sort of the base model. There's a mobile option and that type of thing. I don't think we're ready for that just yet. We just want to make sure that we're comfortable with this and see how things go so that, not to overwhelm staff and know
This-
where we're going.
sorry, I'm just gonna keep going. Is this replacing an existing software that we have, or is this like a net new?
It's a brand new, currently we have our clerks take messages and email or text either myself or the superintendents. So this will be a little bit easier to track, who's taking on this project and who's replied and, when it was replied to, that type of thing.
Yes, if I can, these are all great questions because it is a brand-new software program. Joanne and I have been working closely to ensure not only transparency, but communication and improved communication in all town departments, but in this case, the Department of Public Works. And there are so many phone calls that come in there and so many issues that, and I actually find it in my office, so I'm wondering if I should get this there. But the emails come in with the messages, and as you do your emails, you may lose it. The email gets too far down, you don't get back. This system, specifically for DPW, will actually track the issue with the name, the number that you can go back to. It's a great system, and actually, I believe Danielle here was the one that recommended it several months ago. And I'm thrilled to, yes, she did. So I'm thrilled that we're looking into this because it's so important, and we all know how important it is to get back to people that call us. And this is why we are asking for this transfer.
I guess I would just, software like this, tracking work orders, ultimately, beyond the customer service and better customer service, you're looking for efficiencies, which in the long run.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, I had two questions, but they fell into the group. So I'm good.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next one is DPW stormwater coming from the wages account. Amount requested $6,100, going to the GIS and inspections account. Reason for the transfer, Eddy Pond Dam Phase 1 inspection. Money was appropriated in FY '25, but the inspection could not be scheduled until FY '26. Anything beyond that detailed reason?
Unless somebody has any questions, it's pretty much the reason.
I guess my only question is, and it might just be that the dollar amount is too low, but is this something that we, would normally treat as a capital expenditure?
So, I'm not sure, I don't know if reports would be considered CIP. We can definitely discuss that. But, yeah, it's not it depends on, depending on the dam, it's not like a yearly type of thing. Some dams have inspections every 10 years, some every 2 years, so it just depends.
We are required, is there state regulations relative to dam inspections?
Yes, and the requirement is based on how much of a hazard that dam would be if it were to fail.
Motion to.
Yeah, I'm
Patrick.
sorry, I just wanted to clarify, phase one, is it of 3? Is it phase 1 of 4? Is it phase 1 of no more? If we, what's the goal of getting these inspections done?
So, through the chair, so we only have phase 1. Phase 2 is if the dam is in disrepair and there's enforcement action, or there's, it's more critical. So we only want to be at phase 1.
I have a question, I guess, which is, if it was appropriated in the previous year, where did that money end up? And why wouldn't it have just carried over into the following year?
So unfortunately, it went back to tax levy. We didn't know when that inspection was going to happen. It just depended on the availability of the engineer, and it wasn't carried over to FY26.
Did that answer the whole thing, Steve, or did you, as to where the money went, do you want to cover that part?
I can clarify a little bit more, too. When it comes to the operating budget, unless you actually have an obligation, which would be you have a contract with the vendor to do the inspection, then you could, if you do have one, you can carry it over. But if you don't, which sounds like in this case, because they couldn't get the inspection scheduled until fiscal '26, we're not able to carry it over.
So it dumps into wages automatically?
So it would have closed out to free cash.
So you can't encumber it beyond a certain, like 90 days or something? You couldn't have gone and encumbered it without the contract?
Correct. If it was like a warrant article, those we could carry over, but in the operational, you can't. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarifying.
So if the dam was to be inspected in '25, are we behind what the state is looking for? Are we in any kind of regulatory issue?
No, it was inspected in '25. It just wasn't inspected in FY25. It was after
Gotcha,
July.
okay. I gotcha, thank you.
Additional questions, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's it for transfers. We did have some meeting minutes that were tabled from I believe the last meeting, the April 2nd, 2025 minutes that we have presented to us now, as well as the minutes for, I'm not sure how we got out of order there, but, okay, November 19th, 2025 minutes. The April 9th ones aren't quite ready, so we have the April 2nd and November 19th minutes before us. If there's no questions on these, how did we handle it last time, Patrick?
We just acknowledge no changes and then we move it along.
Okay. So just, if nobody has any changes or amendments that they want to make to these, we'll,
Deemed accepted.
deemed accepted, I like that.
accepted.
Anybody else have any other items? Do we just want to, I know you've given us a very detailed schedule, but we won't see each other. Is this going to be considered our meeting for the month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless there's some other transfers that come up, but I would say this would be the meeting for December. And then for January, we would go back to get on the schedule for the third Wednesday of the month.
Any items anybody wants to have? That's a ways out, but for that meeting, certainly.
No, as long as we can get I'm sure they're going to forward some of the information we spoke of this evening to us, and as long as we have that, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, you'll get that tomorrow. And at the January meeting, there's some salary reserve transfers that need to be done now that all of the union contracts are settled, so I'll be bringing those forward at that meeting.
So they're all done.
They're all
Yes.
done.
No additional questions? Nobody wants to comment on the decorations that they did for our meeting this evening? That's,
And they're going to take them down as soon as we're done.
I think I just wanted to point out too, one quick thing I noticed is like the health insurance increase, 1.2 million. The retirement was like 600,000. So that's almost 2 million right there. If those were both 5% increases, there wouldn't really be a deficit anymore. That would have cut that right in half, so.
Sure.
14%, that's a big one, so.
It is.
Insurance, that's my least favorite word in the world.
Mine too, actually.
I don't think
Makes
anybody
three
likes
of us.
insurance.
Unless you own an insurance company.
Yeah.
I think,
Supposed to solve a problem, it's become
I
a
think what I'm just going to be transparent about is that I want Auburn to be very successful, and I want the citizens of Auburn to get the best quality for what they have. But obviously, we've got a tough road for the next few years, and I think that we want to be cognizant of payroll because of not just the cost of salary, but with all of the things attached to it, like some of the things we're talking about. I certainly don't want to create a position tomorrow only to find out 2 years from now we can't keep it. And I know that's not the case. I'm not trying to sound an alarm. I'm trying to prevent decisions being made that later are going to, and I have all the confidence that the team that's working with this budget this year is going to make it work. The deficit doesn't even concern me.
nobody has anything else to add? Do we have a
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn? Do we have a second? All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.